Half Life Alyx released about 5 months ago, and the official level making tools released a couple of months after, but already we've got a ridiculous amount of great mods, maps and levels. This is my personal top 20 custom campaigns. You may not agree with the order that I've put them in, but if you play any of these 20 levels you're going to have a good time. If you think I've missed any essential custom levels, then let me know in the comments. I am going to be going into some detail about each level, just to let you know what's included and why they make the list. If you want to go into the levels blind with no spoilers, then check the description for the full list. There's also a link to a collection that I've made on Steam, which includes all 20 of the levels. Starting at number 20, we've got the Brewery Break Inn. This will take you about 20 minutes to play through. It's a short but extremely polished level that could be part of the main game. You're in a brewery, as the name suggests, and it's got some really nice lighting. It's fairly simple. You open a gate, get a power cell and then exit out of the door. But it's well paced and it's got some good combat. If you're looking to kill 20 minutes in VR, this would be a good way to do it. Number 19 is Reaction Diffusion. This is going to take you around 30 minutes to play through. Out of all the levels in this list, this is the least impressive visually, with the worst lighting and level of polish. So why is it in this list? The simple reason is because it plays with scale really well. You start out in a large open pit with a walkway that runs around the edge, and then there's 2 tentacle monsters from Half-Life 1 in the middle. Seeing these tentacle monsters in VR is really cool, and it really gave me that wow moment. It then completely flips it, with you going down some of the tightest corridors you will have ever experienced in virtual reality. It feels incredibly claustrophobic, and you find yourself physically turning your body sideways, which is what you would have to do if you were to shuffle down these in real life. The rest of the level's okay, but it's these 2 sections that made it worth checking out. Number 18, which is Mindbreak 2, which is going to take you about 25 minutes to play through. This is the first map on this list from Sadly It's Bradley, and it's the second part of an ongoing campaign. The level's good, with some antlion battles, and a cool moment when you release some antlions on top of some unsuspecting Combine soldiers. It's lower on this list because it's not as polished as the other 2 maps by the same maker. It's got some sections which have some low res textures, and overall I didn't enjoy the flow of the map as much as I did with some of the others. Number 17 is Victory Mine, which is a really short map, will only take in about 10 minutes. It was made for the one room competition, so it only takes place in one area. But the map maker did a great job with the brief by making an area at the bottom of a mineshaft inspired by Half-Life 2 Episode 2. It plays with verticality well, with you calling an elevator, and then you get into a really intense antlion fight with you surrounded 360 degrees, and you've got the blue antlions firing from a distance keeping you moving. You end up going up the elevator, and I just wanted to keep playing. If this was longer, it would definitely be higher up on the list. Number 16 is Across the Coast. This is a longer map at about 30 minutes, and it's based on the Highway 17 section of Half-Life 2, but it's not an exact replica. You have to cross under a bridge with some encounters with zombies and Combine along the way. When you get to the other side, you end up in a train yard with some good gunfights with the Combine. It's a really good remaster of an iconic section of Half-Life 2. At number 15 we've got Quick Stop, which is longer still at about 45 minutes long. This won the 2nd place in the very first Vault Maps competition, and it deserves the recognition. You start out in the quarantine zone at the city gates, and you have to go underground fighting some zombies and headcrabs. You finally make your way up the other side, and then you've got some really good fights with the Combine, outside, inside and on top of a gas station. The main criticism of this map was that the final fight on top of the gas station was incredibly tough and felt a little bit unfair, as you've got a Combine from all sides and you've got very little cover, which leads to frustration. At number 14 we've got Mindbreak 1, which is a short one at 20 minutes. This is the second map by Sadly It's Bradley, and I personally preferred this over the second Mindbreak map. It seems much more polished, it's got some nice environmental traps you can use to kill enemies, and it has a unique antlion fight with some turrets from Half-Life 2 set up as a defence. At number 13 we've got The Dam Part 1, which is about 30 minutes long. This is the first map on the list made by the GoldenEye remake team. That's right, there's a team of modders working on remaking levels from the classic N64 GoldenEye game. They're not exact copies, but they're heavily based on the originals, and they give you objectives that you have to press a button to open some doors, go into an underground bunker, and finishes off with some heavy Combine gunfights. It's really well made, it's nicely paced, although there is an area with some cannons that are mounted, but you could never seem to get the guns to point at the enemies. At number 12 you've got Belomorskaya. This is very short at 15 minutes and was an early map that did some interesting things to change up the gameplay. It removes the gravity gloves and the flashlight and puts you into a pitch black subway with zombies and headcrabs. The only source of light is from a flare. You have to hold it out in front of you and you can only see a few feet in front. It's really amazing how these two little changes completely changed the feel of the game, turning it into a horror game that had me on edge. When you need to reload, you've got to put the flare down and you've got to pick it up manually by reaching down for it. I absolutely love this level from start to finish, and my only complaint was that I wish it was a bit longer. At number 11 you've got Quarantine Street, which is longer at 30 minutes. It uses a similar gameplay mechanic to Belomorskaya, so you've got no gravity gloves, and instead of a flare you've actually got a detached flashlight. You start out on this street, which has a real Resident Evil vibe. You have to open up a gate then go down into a subway. It's almost pitch black down there, and there's some really dense fog, so when you use your flashlight it's only going to light up a few feet in front of you. Just like Belomorskaya, it's very intense and there are some really cool moments where you're backed up into a corner and you have to fight off a horde of zombies. Removing the gravity gloves really changes up the gameplay with you needing to drop the flashlight to reload and then pick it back up again. Some people will probably rank Belomorskaya over this one, but I personally prefer the build up and the longer game length, which put it ahead for me. At number 10 we've got Environs, which is around 30 minutes long. I've got a feeling based on the comments by the map maker that this was planned to be much more ambitious, with doors connecting to different environments, but the limitations with Source 2 wouldn't allow for that. But what the map maker has achieved though is still something special. It takes you through 3 different environments. You start off in an apartment block with no enemies and then it transitions. I don't want to spoil how it's done or when it happens, but the loading of the level is very well done, and it does that thing where you walk into a room and then when you leave everything's changed, which always works well in VR. It has some very tense sections with zombies and headcrabs, and then it transitions again to somewhere completely different with an orange, almost Blade Runner dystopian wasteland vibe. At number 9 is A Lost Case, which is an absolute epic at 3 hours long. I had a really hard time ranking this one. It's split up over 6 levels, which originally had you select and play each one individually, but now the map makers released a new version which lets you play through the entire game in one campaign. I feel like it's a bit of a quantity over quality on this one, with some of the levels feeling a little bit rushed and thrown together. The first level's good with you escaping a cell, and then you have to fight your way through some combine to an elevator. The second level is in an apartment, and this was probably my least favourite. It's not bad, but performance was a little choppy in places, and it doesn't have a really good flow or layout in my opinion. There's a mist floating above the floor in one of the sections which really does look strange and didn't look realistic at all. The third level sees you outside with some more combine gunfights. It's a good level, but it's not as good as a lot of the other levels in this list. But the fourth is the best, easily for me. You're going through a public swimming baths and it's extremely well done. The level design is excellent, with everything feeling like it should be there, and it's got some really creative moments, like a tripwire you have to defuse by crouching down and leaning inside a broken wall. My favourite gunfight was a section where you go through some lockers, and it's worth playing through this level alone. It's the main reason why it's so high up on the list. The fifth level tries something completely different, and it's the only level that I've seen in the workshop that tries to do stealth. You've got no weapons and you have to sneak past combine soldiers. It doesn't work as well as you'd hope, and this is down to the way the combine AI works. If you get spotted, everyone's on alert, and you have got no choice but to reload a save. There was actually one section where I ran into an elevator to hide, and a soldier walked over staring at me and wouldn't move. I really like what he's trying to do though, and I think that he did the best he could with the limitations. I really hope some clever people can rework the way the AI works, so that we get some proper stealth levels, maybe with some sort of silenced pistol. The last level starts you off with no weapons, and I love the creepy feeling. You do get a gun again, and you have to light your way with a candle in some really dark environments which can be really intense. Overall, it's a really good, long campaign, and I think if you haven't played much Half Life Alyx lately, this would be a good place to start. Number 8 is Prospekt Attrition, which is around 30 minutes long. This isn't a direct remake of Nova Prospekt from Half-Life 2, but it's a level designed around the look and the feel of that level. And to be honest, it looks fantastic. I absolutely love the feeling of being in the prison, and the map maker clearly put a lot of time into it as it's extremely well designed and polished. It isn't constant combat with some moments in between, It's got some really creative combat encounters, like one section where you sneak behind a group who are waiting for you at a door. The gunfights are pretty tough, especially towards the end, and I found myself just about having enough ammo. I personally love this one, but if you don't like to be challenged too much, it might be worth playing it on easy. At number 7, you've got Paralysium, the first chapter, which is going to take you about 20 to 25 minutes. If you're looking for a horror level, then this is the best one out there in my opinion. It's got loads of unique features that I haven't seen in any other level, including using volumetric lighting to simulate lighting through the windows, a flashlight on a hard hat which you have to place batteries onto to keep going, and some unique puzzles you won't see on any other map. It uses the Luger pistol, which is a mod made by Demon and Rager, and can be used in other maps, but it fits the feel and time period really well for this level. It's got some custom music, and you're in this really old house in the middle of a stormy night, and you have to work your way out by solving environmental puzzles, and it's got a strong Resident Evil 7 vibes. There is some light combat with zombies, but there's not loads, and it doesn't rely on loads of jump scares. You don't get many bullets, so you really have to pick your shots. My only complaint is that it's short, and I just want it to keep going. It feels like its own complete game, and I think if it was built up to a longer game, people would pay money for it. Number 6 is Seesaw Bridge, which is about 35 to 40 minutes long. This is a remake of a level from Half Life 2 Episode 2. I can't personally tell you how accurate it is to the original, as it's been way too long since I played it to remember, but it's definitely not one-to-one, as it's got a really cool and creative lightning dogfight, and I really love the atmosphere in this level, with some large outdoor areas you can look out onto, and it really shows that the Source 2 engine can handle long draw distance and have good performance, and it still looks incredibly sharp. It has some nice touches with barrels and grenades placed to let you be creative with your kills, and it's got some of the most intense zombie fights. The icing on the cake is watching the bridge fall apart in virtual reality. At number 5 we've got Deep Inside, which is about 40 minutes long. This is the only custom level with a Jeff encounter, and it's done really well. There's a little bit of zombie combat before, and there's some combine combat after, but the main reason to play this level is to meet Jeff again. I really don't want to go into any details on this one, because I think it'll spoil some of the cool creative elements that the mapmaker put into this level. At number 4 you've got Overcharge, which is about 45 minutes long. This was the winner of the first map contest, Combine Presence, and I really can see why. It could easily be part of the main campaign. The level is extremely polished, and it's got you weaving in and out of buildings, through a subway section, making your way to an outpost. It has a really good final fight, which has you pushing forward using cover, taking out Combine on the way. Number 3 is Crash Course, which is about 45 minutes long. This was one of the very first custom levels released before the official 2s were even available, and it's still one of the best custom levels I've played so far. Some people might not rate it as high as me, because I've seen people run into problems with performance, which I personally didn't have, as well as there being some really large open areas, with the final gunfight being quite long range. I personally love it when map makers do something different, so I welcome these more open levels. It really plays with space though, with the game mixing things up with cramped air vents, and plays with verticality, like a section where you have to climb up an elevator shaft. It's got some nice set pieces, a dead strider popped up in the street, and some really well done environmental puzzles rather than just relying on the usual hacker puzzles. It's also got some other things that I don't want to spoil. I found the difficulty and ammo perfect. I just made it through the end sequence without dying, but I did come close a couple of times, and I had to hunt for ammo mid gunfight sometimes, which I find really mixes things up rather than you just getting behind cover and picking everyone off from a distance. This really is a great level. At number 2 we've got Field Studies, which is about 1 hour long. This was part of the Vault Maps Zen Infestation competition, and it's incredibly well made. It takes place in a museum and features some really cool custom assets, like a beautiful statue in the entrance and a life-size bronze-looking Tyrannosaurus Rex. It easily feels like it could have been part of the main Half Life Alyx single-player campaign. It's got some great combine gunfights, with some really well-designed levels that give you good cover. There's some other stuff that I don't want to spoil, and it's one of the hardest final gunfights in any of these custom levels that forces you have to keep switching cover. Some people may not enjoy it, but I personally loved it, and I will say, I normally don't bother collecting resin and upgrading my weapons in these levels, but I actually recommend it in this one. And at number 1 we've got a recent map called The Dam Part 3. This is about an hour long, and this map is absolutely fantastic with lots of unique elements not found in any other level. These include a custom golden gun which is more powerful with a custom sound, It's got an original soundtrack, original voiceover work which is surprisingly good quality, custom enemy AI, and unique Soviet Combine skins. As you progress through the level, it gives you objectives with the voiceover instructing you as you progress through. You've got cannons that are actually useful this time, you get a ride in the back of a truck, you also get weapons that come fully upgraded for a change so you don't have to look for resin. It's got a custom skybox with some great lighting. It's just a step above everything else that's out there right now, in trying to create a level that feels like it could be part of a full game, and not just a level from Half Life Alyx. And that's it. Hopefully some people found this useful, and if you did, you could always subscribe.